day, depending on the type of properties that you're strategically focused on, you may not make 50 grand in revenue, but you can definitely make like 9, 10, 11,000.
For sure. For sure.
For sure.
100%. And if you're the one making the sales calls, it's going to be even more.
Mm-hmm.
If you take 3 hours a day and you actually call those 6 leads they generated that day,
mm-hmm.
you're going to have a better closing ratio,
mm-hmm.
and you're going to do more deals, and you're going to make more money.
Yeah.
So if you can spend that $500, $1,000 a month, $1,500 a month, and also put in the 3 hours a day,
mm-hmm.
you can. Perfect example. I have a mentee, TK. She is actually an assistant to a fashion designer. She's a stylist, and she helps the fashion designer. So she has a full-time job. But when she got off work, every single day in July, she was making these calls for 3-4 hours a day, and she made $23,000. So she was able to do more than the average, mm-hmm. because she was also putting the work in. She wasn't just having VAs do everything.
Mm-hmm.
So an American person is going to have a better chance at closing a deal, especially like if you're from Georgia and you're calling people in Georgia.
Yeah,
you know,
the relatability, the accent.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That makes a difference. I mean, it's the same effect of if you call into your cell phone company and you get someone who's clearly not from America.
Yes.
You get frustrated. Like, people get frustrated immediately. Like, here we go with this slow conversation, and I got to really pay attention to understand what people are saying. So I get that makes sense.
Have you ever called Airbnb?
Never. For no reason.
So they have Filipino VAs,
mm-hmm.
and they sound pretty clear,
mm-hmm.
but it's so frustrating because they can't talk to you like how we're talking right now. There's that big gap.
Yeah, it's so I've not ever called Airbnb, but I've had VAs before in the past that were Filipino. And it's like you're talking, you're having this conversation, you're so upbeat, and then there's this long, weird pause waiting for the response. Like, did you hear me? Hello? What's going on? Yeah, so I get it. And that part can be frustrating, but still, at the same time, there's still a huge benefit because I believe in America, we're being conditioned to speak to foreign customer service representatives.
We definitely are. We definitely are.
For sure. Like, it's cheap labor,
mm-hmm.
right? And these large companies have outsourced, especially since the pandemic, they have outsourced their United States labor to people in the Philippines and Egypt and Jamaica and all these places, Ecuador, that work for really inexpensive labor. So it's just one of those things that you deal with.
Yep. And then in your hiring process, again, you're making sure they have some kind of conversation flow. So you're bringing the best person on that you can.
Mm-hmm.
So you're mitigating that as much as you can with the seller. So you still can definitely get a lot of deals that way. Most of our deals come to us through virtual assistants. They get closed by virtual assistants. And we do have a couple American sales staff, but the virtual assistants have a lot of work ethic because it's how they feed their family.
Yes.
We have so many options here in the U.S. You could go drive Uber. You can do whatever. So sometimes somebody in America sitting in that seat, it's hard for them to do that for that long.
I remember one year, this had to be like 2017. I was utilizing a virtual assistant as my assistant at that time. Total disaster, by the way. And mostly because of me needing things done. When someone's your personal assistant, at least in my kind of business, I don't necessarily have office hours. So if something comes up early hours of our morning, that's like usually super late at night,
right,
their time, or vice versa. Anyway, so I remember getting her set up on a payroll system, and I had tried to do it, set up the payroll, but I thought I had an issue, and the payroll company went in and did it too. And so she was double paid her very first paycheck. And let's just say it was like an overpayment of like $250, right? Because the labor is really inexpensive. But she was double paid, and such good work ethic. She reached out immediately. Like, I had an email waiting, and she's being apologetic. Oh my God, Miss Donnie, I don't know what happened. I'm so sorry, but I received too much money. So I'm looking at it, and I realized she had been overpaid $250. Like, it was her double payment. And I said, don't worry about it. She had done a great job. Don't worry about it. Just keep it. Because it was also too much of a process for her to send it back, right? Like, by the time you send it back to me, the fees that I'm being, like, it was a lot. So I said, don't worry about it. Just keep it. She sent me the longest love letter email. So grateful, so thankful, literally telling me how I've changed her family's life forever. And it just makes you think. I had a guest on the show, Jeremy Anderson. I had a guest on the show and he said, I am sitting on this couch in comfort, getting to do what I love while somebody else is like risking their life or in significant pain at the same time. And it kind of brings you back to that moment, giving somebody the opportunity, like, absolutely, we need the jobs here in America. And we obviously hire, you know, Americans, but that doesn't mean that we can't tap into these other areas and provide opportunities for them as well. That's just something that will stay with me forever. Like, she literally felt like $250 was life changing. That is absolutely insane. So, like yourself, if you are in an opportunity to both have American staff and really serve here, like, the fact of the matter is $250 for the week might be your budget. Exactly. And you're not going to find it in the United States of the America in most cases, right? Most people don't want to work for that. So you do have options. I had a VA when I was still working my full-time job in 2014 for my real estate industry company at that time. I was a locator. I owned a company that was a locator for movie industry cast and crew.
Oh, wow.
To find housing here in Atlanta, Georgia.
That's cool.
And I didn't always have the time to reach out to these properties to see if we could negotiate the deal. So I had a VA. I created a framework, like, here are the properties of interest, here's the budget, here are the parameters, here's what needs to happen in terms of security and access and all that stuff. And my VA literally called. I was paying that person, I think, like $3 an hour at that time. This was back in 2014. I'm paying this person like $3 an hour to make these calls, to go through that whole list to see what would be appropriate to show these clients and close the deal. I built a multiple six-figure company doing that. Like, guys, we got to start thinking outside of the box, really, and having access, like you said, to creating these virtual model businesses is a way to do that. But I really love what you're doing because you've created a virtual model business with a high yielding revenue return.
That's crazy. So you literally already did it, but instead of sourcing rentals for the actors, just replace that with people who want to sell their house. Yeah. And you already ran that type of business. So that's amazing.
You just gave me a completely, I never thought about wholesaling from a virtual standpoint. And when I say virtual, I'm talking about doing it from home virtually, but even taking it to the next level and hiring virtual staff to run it. I never thought about it from that perspective.
It's changed my life. And you know, as a mom entrepreneur, you, especially when your kids are little, you battle that guilt of like, oh, I'm always working. You know, my first year and a half when I was doing everything, I felt like a horrible mom because I'm always grinding and I have to make this life for us. And I felt really bad about that. But leveraging virtual assistants and systems has given me, like, now I work 4 hours a day, and that's with content and wholesaling. That's everything I do. And I get to do everything with my kids. If they want to go to the park, it's not, oh, I have to work. I get to do it. And it's been such a blessing. I never thought that I would be able to be spending this much time with my kids. So especially for parents who feel that like my making money is taking me away from being with my babies, this business model is crazy. Yeah, it takes work, it takes effort, it takes time. But once you lock in, it's like you've literally unlocked a cash machine, and now you have time freedom to actually do the things you enjoy doing.
I love that. So not only are you running a multi-six-figure business in the actual industry of wholesaling, you also teach people and mentor them. Talk to me about like the success. First of all, how long have you been teaching people for money? I know that you mentioned you were putting stuff on YouTube, but when did this become an actual extension of your business?
So it's been about a year and a half now. So at the end of 2021, November 2021 is when I officialized it, and I was like, all right, I'm spending way too much time doing this kind of for free. So let me make this an actual program. And that was my first month actually helping people hands-on. I took on 10 people, and this guy, Jim, he was working at McDonald's. He was a manager for 10 years, and he's one of my favorites because he was like, I feel like less of a man. I'm not as advanced as other men. And he was in LA. So virtual wholesaling is perfect for people like LA, New York, Miami. You can't really do it where you live anyway because properties are too expensive. So he was trying to wholesale for 2 years in LA while he was working at McDonald's. Failed. The second day trying in Oklahoma, which is what he picked as his virtual market, he got a deal. And he made $12,500 in like his first 3 months, and he quit McDonald's.
Of course. Of course he quit McDonald's. Absolutely.
And now he's doing 5-6 deals a month, and his business is just like mine. All of my students make as much money as me once they start, or some of them more. Some of them more because they can.
I'm still on this virtual thing, right?
Yeah,
like I'm
it's
still
crazy.
there, and I'm thinking about it. You said something else that stood out for me. Like, obviously, if you can employ Americans to be in that same position, you make more money.
Yes.
And that's literally, you would, because they speak the language.
Yes.
And there's no language barrier. So I'm even thinking that once you build a portfolio like Jim, and you have these properties coming in, you can now leverage, you can afford to pay Americans. Like, you're making enough money to, if that's really important, because for some people, they're like, I only want to employ Americans. Okay, well, great. Start how you have to start, and then let that be a goal. I want to employ someone who's in the United States that can make these calls. There are people who are qualified. Fantastic. Now you can do that after you get in, like, after you learn how to do 5 and 6 deals a month. You have the budget to do it.
If that's your goal, you can. And there are some roles that would be good for salary. But to be honest with you, even if you're hiring American people, sales, because I did timeshare sales, people do car sales, everything is commission.
Everything.
Salary is the death of a salesperson.
For sure.
You're not going to have motivation if you have salary to
Bree,
really.
Did I not just tell you this? Like, every single job I had was commission. Offer me a salary, and the answer is no. When I was working in corporate America, I'm good.
Really?
I was never afraid of, oh, this job only pays $50,000, but you can get commission. As long as you say, but you can get commission,
Yes.
I'm on it.
Yes. So you
Give
can
it to
do
me.
a small salary, but always make the bigger part of their money the commission, so that they can actually want to work. But yeah, definitely, you can definitely start hiring American people if you choose to do so, and you can build your business that way. There's so many different types of real estate operations. The beauty of it is you can do whatever fits into your lifestyle. For me, this is great because of my lifestyle right now. I'm focused on being a parent. But 5 years from now, when my kids don't want to hang out with me, who knows? Maybe I'll do something different.
Well, if that's the case, like, this is really conducive to your lifestyle, why even open up the door to mentoring? Because I'm a coach. I'm busy. Why, if the idea is to stay home, be a parent, be present, why coach? Why mentor?
Well, my mentorships are also virtual too. So everything is on the computer, Zooms, and the only reason I started is because people kept asking me. And then I love creating content. So if like, that's the part I like. I like creating content. But if you're not monetizing your content somehow, it's kind of a waste of time. What are you doing? Just growing a following for fun, you know? So there has to be some type of a return. And then people kept asking me for help. And when I helped a few people and I saw how much it changed their life, I was like, okay, maybe I don't love the sales part of wholesaling, but maybe this was God's path for me to do something I do like doing, which I love teaching and I love creating. So now I'm doing something that's fun for me. Even when, and I have it structured to where it doesn't take up all my time as well. You know, we have our coaching calls and I help people out one-on-one a little bit, but this business model is just plug and play. Like, it's simple enough that someone overseas can do it. It's simple. It's simple.
True.
It's simple.
It's simple.
Yeah, it's very simple. So it's not like, I think with business coaching, it's so much more in depth because you're struggling with also people's perceptions and mentalities. It's like counseling probably is what I imagine.
Sometimes it is for sure like that. Sometimes.
With this, it's like, it's 4 steps. Are you doing the steps? Okay, you're not doing that. Maybe you should be doing that. Oh, I know it's because you're doing that. And then they go take the ball, they run with it, and there's results. As long as there's results, then we're good.
Are you able to track, like, what percentage of your students get results? I know sometimes that's difficult to do if you're not surveying the whole community.
Yeah.
But do you guys have something set up where you can do that?
So I have in total 128 mentees overall, right? And then of that, so this, I'm full transparency, right? Full transparency. Not everybody tries. So
For sure.
we have these bi-weekly coaching calls, and how many people actually show up, right? Between 15 and 25 every time we do a coaching call. It's between 15 and 25 people. But out of those people that show up, out of the 15, there's at least 9 or 10 that are consistently doing deals. And there's about 30 people out of the 128 who have done deals. So whether it's become a business or not is more dependent on, I had one student, he did a commercial deal for 135,000 and he never wholesaled again. He opened up a business that he wanted to open up.
Yeah.
So a lot of people, they'll do that. They'll make some money and they'll use it because, like we just talked about, it is intensive if you're the one on the phone. A lot of people will take the money and they'll open up what they really want to do anyway. So TK, for example, she's continuing to do wholesaling because she enjoys it. Jim's continuing because he enjoyed it. Andy, who's also a single mom, she's continuing because she enjoyed it. But a lot of people get that 50K or 80K or whatever it is, and they're off to the next thing, and then they just pop back into the chat sometimes to just tell us how their life is going.
But if it's so simple and so lucrative, why stop?
It's simple and lucrative, but it's time consuming unless you hire a team, right? But when you hire a team, you still need to be tracking their KPIs and monitoring them and training them and making sure they're doing the things. And if they start to fall off, it can be hard for people to manage that and also do their dream, whatever their dream is, like opening up a coffee shop or opening up an Amazon store or starting a clothing brand. You know, people have these dreams.
Yeah.
And I'm not doing that to be funny or anything, but people have dreams. I'm the type of person that I don't have to love it if it makes me a lot of money. But some people, it makes them a lot of money, but it's hard. So they don't want to keep doing it.
I go back and forth with that. I do, really. Blessed to be able to do the things that I love for money, right? But also because I'm able to do the things that I love for money, there is a need for certain things that I don't really love to do, but my community could benefit from it greatly. And it's like, do I do it? Do I bring somebody else in to do it? I just love having the option to choose, you know, what it is that I'm doing and don't. So I fully understand. I fully get that. I have walked away from many lucrative opportunities because I just flat out don't want to.
Yeah, and the second thing is, if you don't have a pipeline and the deals dry up because you made 50K and then you went on vacation, it's hard to gain momentum again and start back up. And I think a lot of people, when they do their first deals, if they don't have the mindset of this is going to be my business, they're like, all right, I made money, I'm going to do something else now. They're not worried about wholesaling anymore. Now they saw their seed money. I think everybody wants to be making a lot of money doing what they love. And marketing and sales, which is what wholesaling is, marketing and sales. Marketing and sales isn't necessarily it for everybody.
That's true. That's true. Sales, talking to the people, but when you say marketing, what kind of marketing are you doing in wholesaling?
So marketing would be the cold calls, the text messages, the mail.
That's marketing.
Yeah, that would be the marketing.
What percentage would you say of your leads, your viable leads, are coming from cold calls versus mailing? That was the part, honestly, Toddy, that was so unattractive to me. I'm not sending all these people mail.
It's expensive. Mail's very expensive.
It is expensive. Like, do you do that?
I do. So I do mail, and I only mail those very high motivators. So the inherited with a lien. So it's like specific things that I'm going to mail because they're going to be smaller lists. So we have county records. So in each county that we market in, there's probably between 200 and 500 a month. It's not a lot. So we can send out 1,000, 2,000 mailers every month, no problem. But if you're trying to mail that 10,000 list, no way. You're going to be spending so much money. It's not going to be worth it. Yeah. So we'll mail the highest of motivated, and then I'll say out of 5 deals a month, maybe 1 will come from that, 3 will come from cold calls, and the fourth and the fifth might come from referrals or JVs. So people who have seen me on Instagram or my students who need help now selling a deal, I'll help them sell a deal, and that'll be a deal a month or 2 deals a month as well.
So I'm sitting here and I'm like, first of all, I will say that I am usually, well, not even what I'm usually, but real estate, specifically when we start getting into the coaching and the mentoring, can become really tricky right now.
Yes.
Because there are a lot of people who are teaching real estate that have never actually done, which is why I have so many questions about, because this is our first time meeting. We're just being fully transparent, right? You came highly recommended, but this is our first time meeting, but I'm asking so many questions about the process because I want to know that you really do this. Like, this is what you do, and you appear to really, really do this. But I kind of want to prove the concept.
Yeah.
I want to prove it. What I would love to do is we don't do like hard pitches and stuff on the Full Transparency podcast. That's one of the ways that we stand out. Like, the audience doesn't have to worry about being sold to. Well, what if we took them on a journey and showed them like the whole process of wholesaling a property from this seat, from this interview, to wholesaling a property? Maybe by the time they see this, we would have done a deal and we can prove that concept.
Yeah.
And then go follow up. Like, we're running out of time on this episode, but like follow up maybe with a YouTube live video and kind of show them the steps of what happened. I think that would be fun.
I would love to. And you know what is so cool? I can show you right now.
Okay.
So I just want you to just read a few of these messages. This is a deal that we just closed.
Where am I starting?
Last week. You can start with they're finalizing the HUD, the first one in the blue.
Okay.
So that guy's Richard. He's one of the sellers in Cleveland.
Mm-hmm.
And I told him, hey, we're finalizing the HUD. We're closing, blah, 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 right? And he goes, okay.
Oh, let me read it.
Yeah.
Okay. Good afternoon. Everything's looking good. We should close Friday or Monday, but I'll keep you updated. Just waiting for water, sewer, and finalizing the HUD statements. Any updates? Hi, Richard. Yes, so they're a little delayed on some paperwork, but we are closing next week for sure. I'm waiting on an exact date from Noah at the title company. And then your next message was, good morning. I just wanted to check back in with you. I hope everything is good. I'm glad we were able to close that smoothly last week. So that went from, I'm going to do the time frame on that. So without dating the episode, that was a process that took exactly 2 weeks. That was exactly a 14-day period from the we should be closing next week. Looked like there was a 1 week delay. 2 weeks, the deal closed. And then Richard says, sorry, everything went great. I have another property if you were interested in taking a look at it.
Yep. And I say, okay. And then I ask him for the address. He sends me the address. And that was today. And I told him, I'm a little busy today because of this.
Yeah.
But I'm going to call him tomorrow. He gave me the address. And so it's clearly a condo, which comes with drawbacks. But I can look it up. I can see what it's worth. And tomorrow I'm going to call him and I'm going to make him an offer. And we're going to do another deal. Repeat business is rare in wholesaling, but sometimes it happens. And this was a good deal. It was a $15K assignment fee. Mm-hmm. So that was great. And this next one, we'll see what it turns out to be.
Richard is the seller?
This is seller, yeah.
Okay.
And his name, I saved him as Richard, and then the address. Mm-hmm. That was the address we actually already closed the deal on.
Richard is the seller. You're going to make him a deal. You're making him a deal because you already know that you have a buyer?
Because I already know him. Because I already know I have a buyer. And so when this deal came in, he was one of those people that's a little shaky with the virtual assistants. Mm-hmm. He wasn't really feeling it, you know? Mm-hmm. So I called him. When they said, I don't know, this guy, he seems like he wants to sell, but he's kind of hesitant. And I listened to the call. And this is what I mean by you need to be like paying attention to what your team is doing. Mm-hmm. I listened to the call and it just sounded like he didn't trust them. So I gave him a call.
Yeah.
And he trusted me because I know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So we did I ended up just closing the deal. I called him once. I called him the next day again to follow up, and we signed the agreement the next day.
But I want to be clear, when you say you ended up closing the deal, he's the seller.
He's a seller.
You are the wholesaler.
Yes.
But it sounds like you purchased these deals and you're going to sell it at a later time.
Yes. So it's called a double close. So basically you buy it and you sell it in the same day. Yeah. So we already sold it. The day that we closed on it, we already sold it. That's what wholesaling is.
The day.
The same day.
Why wouldn't you just have the buyer buy the property directly?
Because why would they pay you? You know what I mean? If you connected the buyer and the seller, right?
Okay, so is that the process all the time? So in order for this to work, do I have to buy the property first?
So the title company, right? So it's called a double close using the end buyer's funds. So the title company, right? It's one day. The seller comes in, he signs his paperwork. You sign some paperwork, the buyer signs some paperwork. They use the buyer's money to close both transactions. That's why it's called a double close. So you don't need the money to do this type of transaction. But let's just say you were like, hey, Richard, this is James, and he's going to buy your house.
Yeah, we're not going to do that.
You're not going to do that because why would they pay you?
Right. So that's the part. I'm getting confused in the language, and if I'm getting confused, I know they're getting confused.
Yep.
So a double close is not always the route that you go.
So there's an assignment.
Okay.
So I get an agreement with you, and I just assign it to them. That's one.
To the seller. Them is the seller.
The seller signs an agreement with me, and then I sign an agreement with the buyer.
Okay.
And I assign it. Either way, though, the buyer's the one putting the money up.
Understood. But when you are assigning the contract, it's literally you doing an agreement, a purchase agreement.
Exactly.
You assign it to the buyer, so now they're in purchase. But then how, in that case, do you guarantee that you get your fee?
Because everything goes through the title company. So you never tell the seller, hey, I have a buyer for your house.
Right.
Because
until you do.
You never tell them I have a buyer.
So the whole time they think it's you.
Yeah, the whole time they think your company is the one buying houses. So you know those "We Buy Houses" signs? Yeah. They're not actually buying it and keeping it.
They got a buyer.
They have a buyer on the other hand that they're assigning it to. If you told somebody, I have a buyer for your house, what's the next thing?
Who's the buyer?
Who's the buyer? How much do I have to pay you?
Mm-hmm.
You're and then you're also doing real estate without a license.
Yeah.
You're literally acting as an agent without a license. Mm-hmm. So using an assignable contract and using a double close is how you're able to then resell their house the same day. So it's tricky, but essentially you are buying it or assigning it, but you are the person they need to be talking to get the deal done. So the title company
would treat your fee the same as they would treat as a real estate, the same way they treat a realtor's commission.
No, because a realtor's commission would be based on a percentage. This is based on the spread we're able to create.
Understood. But what guarantees that you get your money?
Because we have the agreement with the seller.
Which is so it's a legal agreement.
Exactly.
And the title company is going to pay you out.
Exactly.
Based on that, whatever's in that agreement.
Exactly.
The title, and it's perfectly legal to do without you being a real estate agent.
100%, yeah.
That's what I'm trying to clear.
Yeah, so let's say you wanted to buy a house for me and you just knew me and I was your friend. You'd get an agreement with me and say you want to buy my house for $20,000. And let's say a week goes by and your brother is like, you're going to buy that house? I'll give you $30,000 for it. And you're like, shoot, I'm about to buy it for $20,000. You can just assign it to him and you can make $10,000 without having to come out of pocket on it. Otherwise, you'd be buying it for $20,000 and paying closing costs and then selling it the next day.
And making no money.
And making, you could make $30,000 but minus 2 sets of closing costs.
Right.
Which you're making now $6,000 or whatever. So in using these methods, that's why wholesaling, it's really an exit strategy and we've made it into a business. Investors will get a bunch of deals under contract and wholesale the ones they don't want to close on themselves.
Yeah.
So we've essentially turned this wholesaling industry has come from turning that into a business model.
Mm-hmm. I just love how we've come into spaces and just started learning information. Like I'm just thinking about my time as a realtor in my 20s and 30s. And I worked a lot with investors and you just said something that triggered a memory. Like I worked a lot with investors who were doing, rehabs, flips, whatever, but they buy these properties and I'd always wonder like, how on earth do you have the money to keep buying all these dang on properties? Mm-hmm. And they were wholesaling property, but I never wanted to be a part of that transaction because I didn't understand it.
Yep.
And sometimes we just miss out on so much opportunity for the lack of understanding. Like I thought it was a waste of my time. I don't want to be involved. I don't want to help. I don't want to blah, 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 blah. And then also the wholesaler, the investor probably said, I don't want to involve a real estate agent in the wholesaling part of this process. So I would show them all these properties. They buy up everything, I guess, get whatever numbers and quotes on rehab and, rental income possibility. And then they pick the ones or two that they want and wholesale the rest. I never had a desire to be a part of that part of the contract or the deal because I didn't understand it.
Most real estate agents don't. Most people don't understand it, which is why you don't just lay it out. It's not that you're trying to lie and say, hey, I'm going to buy your house when you know you're not. Because when I first told my mom about this, she was like, that's illegal. That's 100% illegal. You're saying you're going to buy a house, but you're not the one buying it. And it sounds bad when you say it like that, right? But it's because nobody's going to understand that. No one's going to understand that whole process. You have to break it down. Like, if you know that a buyer is going to buy it, or if you had the money to buy it and you would, because at the end of the day, there's so many different ways to buy a property. You could get a loan. You could buy it cash. If a deal was so good, like I said, I would buy it. I've bought properties and then listed them on the MLS because I knew they were going to make so much more money than if an investor bought it. So wholesaling, you really have to think of it as an exit strategy. If I don't want to keep a deal, I'm going to wholesale it, right? But you can wholesale most of your deals and only keep the ones that are the best. They call it cherry picking. So really, it's 100% legal. Every single major investment firm, including all the hedge funds, including all the big names that you know, everybody wholesales.
Yeah, I mean, I literally just looked it up. I know that wholesaling is legal, but because of where we are with real estate and the education of it and all this stuff, I want to just let you guys know. So wholesale real estate, meaning in real estate wholesaling, a wholesaler puts a seller's home under contract and then finds an interested investor to buy it. In your case, you already know who the interested investor is,
right.
So it's an automatic assignment, almost instantaneous assignment. The wholesaler then assigns their rights in the contract to the new buyer at a higher price than the price contracted with the seller, and the wholesaler keeps the difference.
Exactly.
That's all you're doing.
That's it. It's just assigning. It's selling paper. That's why they call it paper. Like, you'll hear it called paper flipping. You'll hear it called selling contracts. But all you're doing is selling your interest in the agreement.
Yeah.
And if the deal was so good, 9 times out of 10, you would buy it.
Yeah.
If it's a steal, once we had a deal that we were able to buy it for $60,000, and I knew we would get $95,000 from a homeowner because it was move-in ready. But investors were only willing to pay like $70,000
because they need to make a profit.
I found a hard money lender. I put $2,000 down on that hard money loan, and I listed it and I sold it in 2 weeks. So I will buy it. You can buy it and flip it or do whatever you want to it, but wholesaling is an exit strategy, and every investor wholesales some of their deals. Most investors wholesale enough deals to pay for the ones they want to keep. It offsets everything and it keeps cash flowing into their business.
Well, that's immediately what I am thinking about doing it for. Obviously it generates income, but it allows you the money that you need, like with these 15, 20, and sometimes 30% down payments if you're buying commercial.
Yep.
Wholesaling property seems like one of the fastest, outside of acquiring some type of funding.
Yep.
It seems like one of the fastest ways to generate capital to put money down. Like, it seems like the ultimate leverage strategy.
It is. And then imagine you come up on a deal that's an $80,000 assignment fee. Now you just really paid for the whole down payment for this big project that you want. And that's what most investors use it as. But it's the age of information and social media, and people hacked it and they turned it into a business model, and they turned it into get into real estate without any money. People have been wholesaling for forever, 40, 50 years before any of us were born in this room.
Yeah.
But no one ever talked about it. Now it's all over, and then it allows everyone's kind of opinions and misconstruing the concept of it. But that's when they talk about get into real estate with no money, no credit. It's all wholesaling.
It's all wholesaling. All right, so we've got work to do because I want to prove this concept.
Let's go.
For sure.
I'm excited.
So what does that mean? What does that look like? So we have a clear plan of action.
So you want to find a commercial building, or what do you exactly?
Anything. It can be small. I want to
proof of concept.
A concept of the wholesaling concept, and specifically that you are the educator to help teach this concept.
For sure. So do you want to like shadow in my business? Is that more so? Like shadow one of the deals we're doing?
Do I have that kind of time? I don't know what that looks like.
I mean, like do you
sounds like work.
You want me to like
so here's what I want to do.
Follow, the trail of a deal from it being a lead to getting under contract to a buyer.
What I would like to do, I'm not going to between now and the time that this episode drops, I will likely not have a VA and everything in place.
Exactly. That's what I was saying. It's kind of a lot.
Because I have other things happening in my business. but let's prove the concept of a busy professional who can make time to get this done. Maybe we will shadow. I don't know. Let's, at the end of the day, before this episode drops, we will have found, is that realistic to say we will have found and closed on a property?
How long for an episode to drop?
At least 30 days.
30 days. It's possible. 30 to 45 days is likely.
Okay.
But we have deals in the pipeline, you know, like we just got one under contract yesterday in Georgia. So we can definitely, I can send you the agreement for that was dated. You know what I mean? Like we can shadow a full deal in our pipeline. Most definitely. That's easy.
Okay, I'm just looking at our calendar.
And that one should close before 30 days for
Yeah,
sure.
it should definitely be 30 days. So I would like to see the evidence behind the scenes of the deal. I actually just saw one now, so there's that. But I'm doing the due diligence that our audience asks for.
No, I love this.
Right?
This is so cool.
And this is going to be so exciting. And our follow-up, you guys, will do a live stream.
Let's do it.
And kind of walk through this entire process. And in that live stream, we'll be able to add the dates that I don't want to add into this episode. But in that live stream, we'll be able to add the dates and go through the process. But in the meantime, you guys definitely check out Toddy. Toddy, tell us how to find you.
I'm super excited. I was trying to find the address of this deal in Savannah so I could send it to you now.
Okay.
So we could track it. So I'm gonna find it. I'm gonna do that.
When I close this episode out, you can be finding that. But before that, tell us how to find you and how people can connect with you.
Yeah, so I'm on all platforms at Toddy Virtual, TADI Virtual. And you can follow me there. I'm still tracking my journey and I talk about everything that I'm doing all the time. So definitely give me a follow. I'll appreciate it. And thank you for having me on here. This has been really fun and I'm excited about this thing.
I am excited too. And because I think that by the time, based on what we're saying here, by the time this episode drops, we will have proven your concept.
Yes.
I would love for people, at that time we'll have an update by the time people see this. So what's a full transparency special to the audience? You got an affiliate link?
Yeah, it's virtualtransparency.com.
Virtualtransparency.com. I didn't even know we had that, but you came ready. Virtual transparent. Now, Toddy, Reese, we're gonna edit this part of the episode out if Toddy don't show me a deal. No,
I got you. No. You're the first person that wanted to see the concept proved, and I really actually appreciate that because I think it's easy to get anywhere and just say some stuff.
Yeah.
But I love showing.
Listen, let me. This episode will not release until it does.
I'm
okay?
excited. No.
This episode will not release until it does. We've got something to prove. I am excited for you. Tell me what that link is again.
Virtualtransparency.com.
Virtualtransparency.com, you guys. If you saw this episode drop, the concept was proven. If wholesaling seems like a route for you, then make sure you go to virtualtransparency.com and find Toddy and all of her mentorship and coaching opportunities to get you in the game. If you've enjoyed this episode, do me a favor and drop in the comments here. Let's, it's time to take action. I want you to drop in the pivotal moment for you in this episode that said, you know what, I can do this. I can do this wholesaling. For me, it was when Toddy really broke down how to leverage virtual assistants to make this a successful business model. What was it for you that said, yep, this is it. I'm going to start wholesaling. I'm looking into it. I'm looking this Toddy woman up and trying to find out how we can rub elbows and get closer. Let me know in the comments. And as usual, for those of you who are looking for business coaching and mentorship, you need to be a part of my mentorship community, Actionable CEO. That's www.actionableceo.com. It's just $97 a month, and I teach you principles to help you level up personally, professionally, and financially. As always, until next week, make sure that you are taking action and moving the needle forward in your business.
You can't just be like, I'm just going to hire 20 people and they're going to make the calls and we're just going to get deals.
And we're going to make more money.
You got to get the deals, see, okay, we have a lot of lead flow. Let's bring some more people on. Okay, let's boost this up. Let's spend more. Okay, we need more people. Let's spend more. We need more people. That's how you scale. Scale should be step by step. It shouldn't just be a decision you make and hire 10 people one day.
What's going on, millionaires? You're listening to the $1 Million Mind Podcast. I'm your guy. Another special episode around that entrepreneurship and that money. And we most likely going to get into some mindset as well. We got to have these conversations about mindset so that you can groom yourselves to become better entrepreneurs, better versions of yourselves, whether you're a father, a mother, a brother, a sister, or a business owner. You got to start with the mind so that your pockets can then catch up. We have Toddy Virtual in the building. And for those of you who don't know who Toddy is, right, she has been killing the wholesale game virtually. And hence why the name would be Toddy Virtual, right?
Yeah.
So she's been killing the wholesale game virtually. We've had one or two wholesalers come on the show and give y'all some game. But honestly, from the conversation I had with Toddy, like some of the things that she's exposing about the wholesale market, the real estate market, like from me being so far removed for the last couple of years, I'm just like, my mind is blown. She has been in over 5 different markets from like Ohio to DMV, Georgia, Florida as well. Also made over 10 to 50K a month. And in the last 12 months, she's done over 50 plus deals, which is very good for a virtual wholesaler. Like 50 plus deals. You know, we're talking about 5 deals a month. That's crazy, right? Most people only averaging like 1 or 2 deals. And she's now coaching students and taking on some mentorship, now helping others do the same things. 5 deals a month, 10 to 50K a month, and all done from home. So, I mean, without further ado, I just want to pass the mic over to Toddy. And Toddy, if you could tell our listeners just a little bit about you and how you got into this wholesale game, I think that'd be a great start.
Yes, thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be here. And thank you, everyone, for watching and taking the time. So I started virtually wholesaling real estate in 2020. So I was a waitress in Vegas, and I got laid off my waitressing job. And when I got laid off, basically unemployment was $300 a week, and I knew I had to figure something out. I'm a single mom, so I still had to keep the lights on and pay the rent and everything. So I went on YouTube, like a lot of people do when they start wholesaling, and I learned about bandit signs, cold calling, doing all of these different things. So if you don't know what wholesaling is, let's just start there. But wholesaling is just being the middleman between a property owner and an investor. So investors want to buy good deals, but they don't have the time to go look for them. So as wholesalers, we look for those deals for investors. And we do that by reaching out to people who own properties, either calling them, sending them mail, texting them, and all these different methods. So back in 2020, at that time, I started calling people in Las Vegas where I live, where most people, when they start wholesaling, they just start where they live, right? It's just the common sense. Let me just start in my backyard. I know the city. So I got a list and I started calling people, and everybody cussed me out or hung up on me.
Right. Like, what'd you call me for? Talking about my house.
Within 2 weeks, I just got cussed out for like 6 to 8 hours a day.
Yeah.
And I was going hard because I had to make something happen. So I'm waking up at 6 a.m., I'm working out, I'm reading, I'm looking at a script, and then I'm calling people for 6 to 8 hours a day. And it was so much rejection, I wanted to give up. And as I'm continuing to watch YouTube videos and educate myself every night, I would spend the whole morning calling and then at night learning more about wholesaling. As I was watching YouTube videos at night, one day I came across one talking about virtual wholesaling. And they were saying, hey, you can do this in any state. You're not limited to your backyard. And most of them were saying, go 40 minutes out. But I live in Vegas. There's nothing 40 minutes out. Right. We're in a desert. So I'm like, okay, I can't do that. Okay, what's closest? California. California is worse than Vegas as far as being a very, very expensive and saturated market. So I started to think to myself, okay, where can I get my next list from that people will probably want to sell? So I got on these wholesaling groups where people were selling properties, and I just started to look to see what cities other people were wholesaling in. and I kept seeing Ohio, and I kept seeing Cleveland,
Mm.
and I was seeing properties there for like $20,000.
That's a long way from Vegas, though. That ain't 40 minutes.
It's not 40 minutes, but it wasn't gonna matter anyway. Whether I wasn't gonna go, whether it was an hour away or 12 hours away. So Cleveland is 2,000 miles away from Vegas. There was no way I was ever gonna go, so I knew I had to figure out how to do this all virtually, like this guy on YouTube said, right? So at that point, I started researching Cleveland, and I realized that a lot of people buy properties there because they're so cheap, but the rent is still pretty good. You can buy something for 30, 40K, and you might still get $900 rent. So it's pretty good rental market. So I decided to start Cleveland. I did the exact same thing. I got a list. I put it in a dialer system, and I started calling people in Cleveland. And on day 3, I got my first deal.
Wow. Day 3, moving to a new market
Yep.
that you never even lived in,
Yep,
and you closed the deal.
on day 3.
Wow. That's a hell of a testimony. So, what stopped you from, or I guess what kept you going after hearing all those no's? And then was it the same when you got to Cleveland? Were you still getting the no's? Was it just people were more inclined to talk to you? What was that dialing like transition into
It
Cleveland?
was, so even on the first day, I noticed the conversations were different. People were even willing to talk to me. People were nicer. Some people did want to sell on the first day, but I wasn't able to make a deal. So I had a piece of paper next to me in the beginning. I didn't know, all the softwares or anything. So I had a piece of paper, and I would write down their name, their address, and their phone number. And then I would go back.
That was your CRM piece of paper.
Yep, that was it. It was just a piece of paper. So then I would write down all the people who wanted to sell. So when I was doing Vegas, it was 0 every day. It was just F you, you stupid B. Why are you calling me? Why would I sell to one of you when I could list my house and sell it in a week? And it was just, I could tell the market was very oversaturated with people doing the same thing that I'm doing. Also, there's some really big wholesaling companies in Vegas. At that time, Zillow had Zillow Home Offers they were buying. OfferPad was buying in Vegas. Redfin was buying. Every home buying major company was buying in Vegas. And then there's big wholesalers in Vegas too that are spending hundreds of thousands of dollars a month. So what I'm doing is not something new. Everyone is doing it, and they're spending a lot of money doing it.
Wow.
I think the difference when I went to Cleveland was I'm calling actual distressed properties that people couldn't sell on the market.
Zillow wasn't buying them either.
No, Zillow, OfferPad, none of them were even in Cleveland. It's not really an appreciating market, except for some expensive suburbs. So that goes to learning the market. There's going to still be some areas in the county that Cleveland is in, Cuyahoga County, that are going to be just like Vegas. There's Beechwood. It's expensive. They're building new houses. It's beautiful. It's hard to get a deal there, just like it's hard to get a deal in Vegas. But there's lots of areas in Cleveland that people are buying rentals because they can buy stuff for 50K, 100K, even 120, and rent it out very high, and they're making their money. So I started to learn why investors buy, because what's a wholesaler's job? We find deals for investors. Why do investors buy? To make money.
And an investor probably buys differently in different markets.
Exactly. So if you're going to buy something in Vegas, you're pretty much buying it for the appreciation. But if you're not going to get a good deal on it, you're not going to buy it. And if there's 5,000 wholesalers spending $100,000 a month, let's say, it's going to be very hard for me to compete when I have $500. So my only power at that time was my time. So I had to reach people that a lot of people weren't going to be going to. So I had to reach less desirable properties, but highly motivated people. So I was looking at vacant houses. And you have to think about the mindset too. It's 2020. It's a pandemic. People are home, number one. And number two, they're worried about finances. So if they have that vacant house or that tenant-occupied house where the tenants aren't paying, they are more motivated to sell because they want the cash. They could use the cash right now. And the cool thing is, there's always a silver lining to the cloud. Right now, we're in that same kind of market. Right now, the recession is coming, right? So people are really worried about money. So people are really open to selling their because I picked Cleveland and it worked out, I realized